My Voice provides those with lived experience in homelessness, addiction, mental and behavioral health struggles, and domestic violence with a platform to tell their story in their words. Every episode is conducted anonymously in order to facilitate a candid and comfortable place for guests to tell their story. My Voice is hosted by Bryan Fields, who works as a case manager here at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska. We now join a My Voice conversation, already in progress.
All right, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Opening question, are you ready? Okay, you're in a coliseum, right? It's like a gladiator coliseum, and you have to face like New York sewer rats, right? How many do you think that you could take before you were overrun?
That's an oddly specific question.
We had this debate. We had this debate for like a good chunk of time, and there's some serious disagreements. So I thought I would bring it as the opening question.
So are they like normal size rats?
No, they're like big. Like, have you ever seen a New York rat? They're like freaking huge, dude. Huge. Yikes. Yeah. Ginormous.
Do I get to bring anything, or is it just
bare hands?
Bare hands.
Just you, bare hand combat, fighting for your life, gladiator style.
Well, I've done some karate, so I have like just, a bit of an edge. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 20.
20. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I said I was a little overeager and I said 50. No, I said 100. That's right. I said 100. But I'm like, they're rats. Like, I get that like they would overwhelm you, but I just feel like they're on the ground, bro. Like, if I was fighting, you got to think about one, the adrenaline you're going to get for fighting for your life.
Yeah.
The adrenaline you're going to get from the crowd around you. I could just imagine that if I'm fighting for my life, like, I'm going to tap into a whole nother atmosphere of stamina and strength. Maybe 100 is way, way excessive.
It might also depend on like what's at stake, So.
Well, your life is at stake.
I think there's probably other things that can motivate me more, but.
Okay, fair enough. Let's just build a coliseum and test this out. What do you think?
It.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Just have some New York rats shipped up here.
It'd be super awesome. I think I'd go watch.
Oh man.
Whatever. Anyways, all right. Where are you from, sir?
Originally, I'm from California. I came up to Alaska when I was 6.
Oh, wow. Okay. Born in California. Do you have a lot of memories of California, or is it kind of like...
I do, I suppose, have a lot of memories. They're, obviously it was a while ago, so they're a little bit fragmented, but I definitely have some good memories.
Yeah, so what was it like living in California?
Well, the majority of my memories are focused around our... mobile home my parents had, and there was a little hill that went up from our house, and then you turned a right corner and there was a longer hill that went down and twisted a little bit, but eventually it came to a creek. And so we would ride our bikes or just walk there pretty often.
Okay, nice.
And I have this one little memory of I had this stick that it looked like someone had like been able to pull the knot out of a tree, so it came to like a weird twisty point, and I just really loved that stick. But I have this memory of I accidentally dropped it in the creek, and I got all sad because I like this little stick, and then my mom, I think she was even wearing a skirt, she jumped in to the water, went up like to her waist almost, I think, and she grabbed the stick and
yeah, mom of the year. That's awesome.
Yep.
So it sounds like you have a good relationship with mom.
Yep.
What's the relationship with dad? Is it the same, similar?
There's definitely been more ups and downs and difficulties with my dad than mom. There were definitely times when, I definitely have really good memories with him too.
Awesome. Cool. So you guys moved up here at 6. Was that what triggered the move?
My dad got into the Army.
Oh.
Yeah, which I think I was 5 when I first heard the news. My little 5-year-old brain, when they said that, it was immediately like, I was like, he's going to go fight in a war and die.
Oh.
And I was so sad. I didn't want him to do that at all.
Yeah.
But once I learned a little bit more what he was gonna be doing,
Yeah.
wasn't as dangerous,
Right.
at least at first. Took some getting used to, I guess. But
Yeah.
the Army shipped us up to Alaska.
Yeah. It's so hard for kids to process anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then those are the type of things that people don't understand, like how easy it is for kids to have trauma and like unintentional trauma, you know what I mean? But those things to a child could be so horrific,
Yeah.
you know? And so, okay, so you guys came up here, Dad joined the Army. What did home look like while Dad was in the Army?
So for about, I don't remember exactly, but I think about 14 years, we lived in a house just like 10, 15 minutes outside of Wasilla, I think.
Okay.
And it was a 1-story, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, pretty small. It was, I think, just under 1,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely, obviously, most of my memories come from there. We had about an acre of property, I think. And we had this 4-wheeler trail that went around, like just along the edge of our property.
Yeah.
And I think it was there even before we moved. After a while, we got 4-wheelers, and so I have a lot of memories of just riding 4-wheelers around and around that property. Or
the Alaskan thing, huh?
Yeah, or up on the trails that led along the main roads.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's so cool. That was such a culture shock for me coming from Ketchikan and coming here. And we'd be just driving down the highway and you see kids just on the side of the highway on 4-wheelers everywhere you go. And I'm like, what the heck is going on around here?
It's a big thing, I guess.
Yeah, cool. So how was school for you?
I usually tell people, because it's mostly true, I think, that most of what I learned and use today, I was taught like by my mom, not necessarily even as part of school, or by myself when, studying things, because I pursuing my own interests, because I never really was very good at studying in school. So I kind of, I was homeschooled my whole life, from when my mom started teaching me in California all the way to high school in
really?
Yeah. And she actually became a teacher at the charter school that I went to during high school. But yeah, it was good, being homeschooled and having the opportunity to kind of have a little more options than I think some people have. Because first we were with IDEA, and then we were with Twinley Bridge for the majority of my homeschooling, and they each had their own unique opportunities. Twinley Bridge Charter School, especially, that I went to all 4 years of high school, they had a bunch of extracurricular classes. So I took, art and physical fitness and robotics and a bunch of others I can't remember immediately. But I learned a lot of interesting things that, not everyone gets access to. So it's kind of like the interesting things that I got to look forward to in school.
Yeah.
I kind of learned math and writing, during those things more than in my actual classes for those specific topics.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was the social aspect of that for you? How did you adjust with that? Were you an only child, or do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh, I have 5 siblings. 5.
Oh.
I'm the oldest, and then there's 4 sisters, and then my one brother is the youngest. So it's kind of like bookends.
Yeah. Okay. So was it a lot of like hanging out with brother and sisters and stuff?
Yeah, it was. I didn't really get a lot of besides like youth group at church. I didn't really get the public school experience, at all until like basketball, because I played for a small school for my last 3 years of high school. So that was kind of the first and biggest like introduction to a more
like social atmosphere.
Yeah.
Was that difficult for you, or?
In a lot of ways it was, because one of the fortunate things I've had in my life is I haven't actually experienced a lot of bullying. The most I experienced was in basketball, because still struggle a little bit with socializing, but especially then I was definitely a major introvert. And so naturally I kind of fell among the quieter kids, which I not complaining about because they were the coolest kids in my opinion. But
Yeah, same. I'm a quiet kid myself. Yeah, that's cool. So how did you face that anxiety and that fear, going from being homeschooled to being on this basketball team and engaging with all these kids? How did you overcome that? Because I'm sure you felt a little anxious about doing that.
I think I kind of just had to settle on the fact that I really loved basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, and I didn't really, I don't know if I learned this until around high school, but I've had exercise-induced asthma for I think my whole life. And the weird thing about that is that it doesn't really show until I have to like compare my own stamina to someone else's.
Okay.
So I never was really one of the star players because it's really difficult for me to keep up. My breathing would get really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I had an inhaler, it would help. So I kind of just, sometimes the guys would make fun of me for not being as good as them, in different ways, or they'd just look at me in a weird way that made me feel like they thought I was less in some way. But I found that if I just didn't really care and just focused on, I love basketball.
Yeah.
It's fun to me, that it was a little easier.
Yeah.
And I did have the friends, the kids who could be considered maybe the weird kids.
Right.
And they were always there for me.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I hope somebody hears that, because there's so many kids out there. I was one of them. I let my anxiety, I loved basketball, loved it. I started playing at a young age. I would spend days and nights playing, but I let my anxiety and like the fear of failure stop me from trying out for teams.
Yeah.
And so that's so awesome to hear that, if you can really just take a deep breath and kind of, show some grit and just remind yourself of your love or your passion for something, that you can kind of get through that and push through that and enjoy yourself still. Because it sounds like you had a good time those 3 years, or else you wouldn't have played the 3 years, right?
Yeah, I did. It was fun. None of the guys on the team were terrible.
Yeah.
I just was a little bit hurt sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
By little things, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all in all, it was a good experience, and I probably learned a lot, even if it was mostly just about what my parents had taught me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess going to play basketball with some of those kids and the weird ways they would react to things and the weird decisions they made, it made me appreciate how my parents had taught me. Because one of the things I regret actually is that I didn't speak up as much as I wanted to, because sometimes, I would see something that I knew was not something that, my teammates should have been doing, should have been talking about, should have been engaging in.
Yeah.
And that I didn't really speak up.
Right.
Well, I think it's mostly just because I did have a lot of social anxiety.
Yeah.
There was this one time when we were coming back from a tournament, and we were all on the bus, and this one guy was talking about, you can buy happiness with money. And I personally have a strong feeling that happiness comes from a very different place than money, So I don't remember exactly what I said, but I stood up, and whatever I said, he just kind of was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there could have been more moments like that.
Yeah.
But
you did what you could and what you were capable of at the time. And
yeah.
Okay. Childhood sounds pretty good. Is dad deployed and gone a lot while you're going through your school years, or? I
think he was in the Army until 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born just around the turn of the century, so most of the year I'm the same age as the last two numbers of the year. So I was 14 in 2014.
Yeah.
And so he deployed a total of 3 times, and I think in total that was a little over 3 years that he was gone. The first time was like 7 months or something. The next one was 9. The last one was like 13, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. But yeah, he was gone a lot here and then. And I have, those memories of going to I don't know what they were called, but like the big buildings with the stands, and then the soldiers returning home, they walk in from the doors and they're all in uniform and, you know, marching.
Yeah.
And you have to wait for their whole returning home ceremony.
Then you just want to run up to your dad, I'm sure.
Yeah. Finally.
Yeah. Was that hard on you? Did you adjust to that?
I mean, of course there's, like, if you have a loving dad like my father was, you know, having him not be there, you know, it does make a difference, especially on my mom. You know, it was harder for her when he wasn't there to help out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was hard, and I missed him, of course, but I wish that he hadn't gone to the Army for lots of reasons because of what came after him going to the Army. But during that time, it was almost... I actually have some of my greatest memories with him, I think, while he was in the Army. Because of what the Army did to him. It got, you know, a little bit worse later on. Oh no, it wasn't too bad, and I was really proud of him. I remember on my 8th birthday, I think it was, I intentionally had like an Army birthday party. Yeah. And I even had a whole uniform with my I had a rank, you know. I think I probably had like the lowest rank because you could go and have the uniforms like specially ordered. You know, the people in the Army could have uniforms specially ordered for their kids, and
cool. So it sounds like you were able to adapt to Dad in the Army life, and it sounds like the Army changed Dad a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know when his alcohol addiction started, but he told me that it was the Army that started it. I have reason to believe it might have even before that, but I don't know. You know, things just seem to change, at least from my perspective. I don't know. It might have even been the same, and I just didn't notice before he got out of the Army, right? But things seemed to change after he got out. His addiction to alcohol just like continuously got worse and worse. There were struggles with that, of course, lots of different things. Like there were nights when my mom would have to like take action to prevent, in lots of ways. My mom had to be kind of a shield for various things to us, you know, and she, I always tell people, you know, she's an actual superhero because because she's been through so much.
That sounds really tough because it sounds like Dad was really loving and then kind of changed on you, and that's got to be hard to process.
Yeah, I know he always loved me, and he still does now, but there was, of course, just an unwillingness or a lack of knowledge of how to go about, you know, changing his addiction. And I learned later that, because for a while I just hated alcohol, you know, I thought it was the most evil thing in the world. But
I can imagine,
But I learned later that it was actually some of his underlying behaviors that were actually what was the worst thing going on. I don't actually remember what year it was. I think it's been roughly 5 years now. Eventually, my mom had to make the decision to remove us from that situation. And eventually, because of legal issues and because she wanted to protect us, she made the decision to send him in the divorce papers. So, so he's, you know, they're living separately now, and I've had to learn how to have a relationship with Mom and a relationship with Dad that's, you know, they're both just in completely different sections of life now. So
right, yeah, it's so hard, and I'm glad that you said that, because as far as like your dad and his underlying issues, especially with, and I don't have a lot of experience with, you know, veterans, but I can only imagine how that lifestyle would change you and how hard it would be to be able to cope with that. And lots of people, you know, there's always been a stigma about like alcoholism or addiction, that, you know, they're making a choice, or, you know, and maybe some of it is a choice, but it's the only choice that they think that they can make, and the only choice that they think is available to them. And I think if people could really understand that, it would be a lot easier for them to have the love and compassion for somebody battling addiction or alcoholism.
Yeah, for sure. Something I had to learn. I've actually been the one, which I'm kind of happy, I guess, that I was able to do this for my dad, but at the same time, it wasn't necessarily my responsibility, but in lots of times as he was battling, addiction and trying to process through everything, I don't always even know why, but sometimes his parents would call me, and they still live in California, and they'd be like, hey, he needs help with this thing. Can you go and, pick him up and bring him somewhere, or can you go and clean out his living space that he can't stay in anymore because he ruined that, I did have to kind of learn that it's just his own battle, and it's not, I realized that he did still love me. He just didn't understand, it took him a long time, which I should mention that I think it's been almost 2 years, or roughly 2 years now, actually, that he is sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
that's
awesome.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah.
Because eventually he did, he hopped between places for a while, but eventually he started finding places where he actually was able to start overcoming that more. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, what you're talking about is a very delicate balance between holding boundaries and cutting ties, right? And, lots of people think that boundaries and cutting ties are the same thing, you know? And in my experience with loving somebody with addiction, or being an addict myself and watching the ways that my family handled it, it was always, I love you, I care about you. No, I'm not going to give you money, type of different boundaries. But the phone was always there, right? And the option was always there, but I had to choose to engage in that, right? And I think a lot of times people think like, oh, I'll just cut them off and they got to figure it out on their own. And that's honestly one of the worst things you can do to somebody suffering. Yeah. Right? Because then instead of giving them hope that there could be this love that they really actually truly want, you're cutting them off from that and just sending them further into isolation.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds like 14 through high school was a little bit challenging for you, but you made it through, and mom kind of protected you through that time. Yeah. And so you graduated. And what did that look like after graduation?
Initially, I had planned to go to college in Juneau for a business degree. Now, I didn't end up doing that, and I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think I would have done very good in that. I was still kind of operating on I do things because this is what my parents told me to do things, rather than I do things because I understand why I do these things. Right. So I think if I had just gone straight to college, completely new place, new people, everything, I don't know, I might have been a completely different person. But thankfully I waited a year, didn't really know what I was going to do. At the time I was working at a grocery store. It was my first official job, and I worked there for 2.5 years. It was a really good job. I think I started my first job halfway through to my senior year of high school.
Oh, okay. So where at?
It was at Three Bears, Alaska, off Palma-Wasilla.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, me too. There's not many people there that were there when I was working there.
Right.
There's not many people left, but I made a lot of good friends. There were a lot of really cool people there. It's definitely a good atmosphere.
Good environment for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So it was a good place to start off, because my boss, who at the time, I think it's a different manager working in that store now, but at the time it was Jeff Dorman, and he was always just really patient, really, he would listen, and then he would just tell me what was what.
Yeah.
He wasn't strict in an angry way, but he was as strict as he needed to be on every occasion. Right. Yeah. 2020, I think that I developed Tourette's, which I didn't even know was a thing before then. Yeah. And there was this one night when I had an attack, a Tourette's attack, and for a week after that, I had a really bad stutter. Yeah. Which once in a while will come back up again, but only if I have bad moments. For the most part, it's not there. Okay. But I went into work and told them, hey, I've developed this thing. I have a stutter. Just wanted to let you know. Sometimes I have an attack, and I might just need to take a break, or I might even need to leave. And Jeff was there, and also the assistant manager, and they were both just kind of like, okay, thanks for telling us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really good environment. I got to one thing my dad has always been good at is working a job. So he taught me to be responsible, and I got, I think, a really good opportunity to put that into practice at Three Bears.
Awesome. For us that like don't know anything about Tourette's, so you said you had a stutter before. Was there something, have like you done work with doctors about like what brought this on, or is it something that just is genetically, or how did that come about?
As for genetics, I don't remember actually if it's genetic or if it's just a thing that happens in some people or whatever. What I do know is that usually Tourette's is developed in young kids, but it often shows, well, maybe not often, but sometimes it can show up in older kids or even adults after a lot of stress or trauma. So for me, it was after my parents separated. There was just kind of there was that period of me learning new things and just thinking over, what had led up to my life at that point and my parents separating. And so I think it was kind of just a release at that point. And for some reason, that's what set it off. And so even though for most people, Tourette's develops as a young child, I think I always had kind of very tiny tics, which a tic is just a single involuntary movement. It can be a vocal sound. Like for me, I do a lot of whistles, or
Very
random, or random mouth noises like a pop or something.
Yeah.
And most of the time for me, it's motor movements. So like my hands will do weird things. Sometimes my muscles will like lock up kind of weird. But really a tic is just an involuntary movement.
Yeah.
If they aren't as bad, sometimes you can block them temporarily or just some of them. But blocking them can sometimes make them worse later. So it's kind of a weird balance you got to figure out.
Yeah. So what would an attack look like?
So an attack, and I used to have them a lot more frequently around the time that it was showing up, but it's basically just a flood of these involuntary movements. And so it can show up in lots of different ways.
Okay.
For me, sometimes they would be happening in my legs and my arms so much that I wasn't able to sit up or stand up for periods of time, and it would be like 5 minutes to 2 hours. It was completely random, it seemed, right? How long it lasts, how severe it was. But there were times when my family, if I had an attack, they'd just bring me a bunch of pillows and blankets and just like set them around me because I'd be thrashing around, my hands hitting the fridge or the wall or the ground, and my head sometimes would bonk into things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd have them in cars and they'd try and put something up near the window because my head would bonk into the window. So I those kinds of things only happen like maybe once every 2 to 3 months now, I think. So there's some people that have Tourette's where it's almost like a constant tic attack, right? But thankfully, I don't actually have it that bad. It's only bad once in a great while.
Okay. So does it get triggered by like stressful events and different things like that?
It can. Sometimes I can point it to a big thing that can trigger it is caffeine and sugar a little bit too. So I have to be careful with how much. Like today, I was rather tired, so I drank some caffeine, and for a bit there, I was regretting it, but it's past now. So
okay. So what does treatment look like for that?
So for the first, I think, almost 2 years after developing the more major symptoms of Tourette's, I was trying medications, but I think I tried 2, and both of them, they would limit the amount of tics I experienced, but it felt like instead of letting them out, because a tic is like a pressure in my body and my brain, and sometimes it just pushes right through and I can't stop it. But sometimes I can hold it there.
Mm-hmm.
So the medicine felt like it was just automatically holding it there without me wanting to, and it would often like feel like a major pressure was in my brain, and it made it really hard to think and focus.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I just decided, it wasn't worth it, and I just stopped trying medication. If for some reason my Tourette's ever got really bad again in the future, I might go back, but for now it's not worth it, at least for the medications I tried.
Okay, so it sounds like you like developed some like coping mechanisms and stuff to try to like deal with that.
Yeah, there are some things you can do. One of those is I don't remember what it's called. There's a specific reason for it, but like if one of my arms is doing something weird, like trying to go in a certain direction, like I have this weird thing where my hand will try and twist backwards, like to the point where it starts hurting.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can use my other arm and like force it to twist back, and that can help.
Okay.
So there's various things like that. Also, one of the big things that makes my Tourette's worse, and it's basically a thing that everyone with Tourette's shares, is if you watch videos of someone ticking, or if you meet someone else that is ticking, not all people that have tics have Tourette's. There are like anxiety, tic disorders, and other things. But if you just see someone ticking, or if your body sees something that thinks is a tic, like sometimes I'll see people just do a natural body movement, and my body will think it's a tic, and then it'll make me copy it, basically.
Really? So
like seeing other people ticking makes it bad. And so for when I was first developing the tics a lot more, I was watching a lot of videos of other people that had tics, cause like,
just trying to learn about it. Yeah.
Look, these people are like me. But and eventually I just had to say, okay, I can't watch this anymore.
Okay. What kind of challenges have you faced, if any, with this diagnosis?
There are, of course, times when it's worse, that people, like, I'll just be walking in the store and people are looking at me weird because I'm like making weird movement or making noises with my mouth. And I kind of think that it has actually helped me
really
overcome my social anxiety a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have to, just be like, I make weird noises.
Yeah. So you've like embraced it.
Yeah. Well, I had to, I guess.
Yeah. That's so cool that you're able to do that. And so many people struggle with just like embracing and being okay with who they are.
Yeah.
So that's super awesome you're able to do that. Okay, so how did you get introduced to My House?
My second job was at the Valley Hotel.
Okay.
And nothing against them at all. It's a great place. I made lots of friends there, but that job was extremely stressful to me. At that time, I was still on 2 medications. I was actually on the one for my Tourette's and also on a depressive medication. And both of those together, it just made me it was really hard for me to focus. And I worked as a dishwasher, and I had the last shift. And so what that meant is that I was expected to finish all the dishes before I left, regardless of how it was left when I got there.
Yeah, I've been a dishwasher before. It is not pleasant.
It's not fun. Yeah. Obviously, I still have great memories from there. Like I said, they were really good friends. There was a girl who I won't mention her name, but she was actually like she was really nice to me and a really big inspiration, I think, in some ways, because I could tell that she had been through probably a lot worse than I was dealing with at that time. But she just, she would laugh and she would just tease me in a friendly way, and she joked that she was like my parent at work. And she was a lot older than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I, even though dishwashing was really hard, I made good friends there, and it was cool. So back to the topic.
Right.
I had to quit that job because of how stressful it got. And it was about 3 months later in 2022, I think it was around May, that I think my mom found out about my house, and my sister was trying to go through 9 Star, and so she was like, maybe you can go and maybe they can help you get a job, right? And so I walked in there, and at the time I had just gotten married to my spouse 2 months prior, and so we were trying to figure out, like we didn't really have a place to stay because we were trying not to go to my mom's house, and
Right.
I didn't have a job, but obviously we needed one. I was running out of my savings, and I was just really nervous. I was like, oh, this is a new place. This is weird. What's with the open office? I remember just sitting down at the supper club table, just waiting, and then as soon as I was called over, it was Mike that I talked to first, I think. It was just like a rush. Like, they were like, here, we can do this, we can do this. You got, like, you can go to the cafe, you can go to Steam Driven.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of thought I wanted to go to the cafe, but I didn't really speak up. I didn't let them know what I wanted, and so I just ended up in Steam Driven. But now that I've been in Steam Driven, for so long, I think it's the best place for me, actually. So it kind of just all worked out, and
right.
I was like, they were like, oh, you can get an interview. I was like, I have clothes at home. I can just go get them. They were like, no, here's a voucher.
Yeah. I love that. I love that aspect of it because it's something that gets lost. A lot of people think that we're just like a housing program now for some reason.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of calls like, do you have housing? Do you have housing? Which is, I get it because it's a housing crisis and lots of kids need housing.
Right. Yeah.
But what they forget is that we're also for at-risk youth. Right. And so somebody like you with, obviously you have a safety net, but you're still at risk due to, you know what I mean, where you're at in life and medical and all of those different type of things. So you were eligible to come in and get services.
Yeah.
And you were met with not, oh, hey, what does it look like for you? Are you really this? Are you really that? It was, okay, this is what you want to do. Let's help you do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely really positive and really, I just felt rushed into it. But in a way, that was actually exactly what I needed because I was, at the time, I was extremely hesitant, and extremely, I didn't really like to, I think a lot of times in my life, I've been very hesitant to start something.
Yeah.
To like make a decision to go in and start doing something. So that was actually exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
To just be like, here, you're going to work in Steam Driven.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to do that. And Michelle has created a culture of like, we don't like making people wait.
Yeah.
And we try to get them into and do what they need to do as quick as possible. It doesn't always work that way. We're not perfect. We get busy and stuff, but there's lots of times we react that way and try to, help you get into these things because we know how hesitant you can be, right? I know a lot of our youth have been let down by people before. And so they can be like, sure, you say that you're going to help me, but nobody's really helped me before, or, have, just hesitations on, I don't want to trust this person because I don't know this person or whatever it might be. And so we try to just kind of, let's get through this. And we'll see where we can go so that we can prove to you and start building that relationship with you so that you're comfortable when you come here. Because we want you to keep coming back and keep visiting and saying hi and, work and all of those different type of things. So,
yeah. It definitely didn't take me long to feel comfortable.
Yeah. Why do you think that was?
Well, before, there was like a lot of unease before I met anyone. But it was such just a open arms thing. I mean, like it surprised me how ready and willing everyone was to just help me out and just give me what I needed, It was, so it's just like, oh, this place is like not judgmental.
No.
It's like, and so it was pretty easy.
Come as you are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm glad that you've had that experience, and I hope that everybody that walks in here has that experience and understands that that's the environment that we want to. We don't care who you are, man, or what you've had throughout your life, or if you need help and you are ages 14 to 25, and you're at risk of homelessness or homeless or just an at-risk youth, give us a call, and there is an army of people. Like, people don't exaggerate that. There is quite a few people in this building. So cool. So you went through our program and you got a job at Stream Driven. What does life look like today?
Presently,
Yeah.
My life is honestly chaotic, but but in good ways.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of change. I actually have my first baby is due in technically less than a month now.
Wow,
So
that's so exciting. Congratulations.
it sure is. That's just one of the crazy things. But honestly, even now, I think sometimes work is supposed to be kind of that constant, so sometimes things are chaotic and crazy in my personal life, and sometimes something happens and I got to figure out how to figure it out.
Yeah.
but if I come to work, there's always the clothes, there's always the sorting,
Yeah.
there's always
Yeah.
there's always Ian and whoever's currently an intern there, and
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to just have the place where I can go and do my job. And
Yeah. And you're now a manager
yeah,
of the boutique.
I've been manager for a year and a half about.
Yeah. And you now, after coming in and being the person needing help, are now the person providing assistance to those other kids coming in
Yes.
and needing job training.
And it's easily the best job I've ever had,
Wow.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do love working here.
Yeah. How cool is that, though, to be able to go full circle like that?
Yeah.
You know?
And if I look at myself, little timid, socially anxious me walking in the doors of this place, 2 years ago, and me now, yeah, there's been, dramatic change.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think I would even really call myself socially anxious anymore.
Yeah. That's cool. I can see that too, because you're I can see when you interact with customers and different new interns, right? You embody the same atmosphere that we had for you when you got here.
Yeah, I do my best, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a really good job, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. My final question is going to be, if there is a youth that is considering coming into services but just unsure, what would you tell them?
First, I want to let them know, I guess, that, when I was in that moment, in that time when I stepped in here, I was completely unsure. I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know what I should do. I had no idea, right? So I was just at a complete sort of loss in my life, pretty much, and so quickly, my house just helped me to find a direction immediately, and then all I had to do was just do my best to trudge along in that direction. And it was like, they made it easy for me to do what I needed to build my life back up,
Yeah.
I guess you just got to take the step.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Take the step. I like that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of My Voice. For local services here at my house, please call 373-4357. That's 373-HELP.